Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked where I climb the online Regulation D VGC ladder in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and provide live commentary as I go. In this video, I'm going to be trying out one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the entire format in Hisuian Goodra. This team is basically designed to protect Goodra as much as possible. You've got Landorus-T for Intimidate, Grimmsnarl for dual screens, and Rillaboom to set up Grassy Terrain for it. The Goodra set here has Rocky Helmet with Life Dew, as well as Iron Defense, Body Press, and Heavy Slam. The general idea is that Goodra can just stay on the field for basically forever, and it is really difficult to knock out, especially because its ability, Shell Armor, prevents critical hits. With the Rocky Helmet and that, it is a very effective counter into a lot of common physical attackers, such as Urshifu as well as Dragonite. So I am really excited to feature it. I think a lot of teams I've used so far in Regulation D have been very fast-paced and hyper-offensive, and this is the complete opposite of those kind of teams. As always, I'll do a quick breakdown of things, but if you want to just skip to the battles, check out the timestamps down in the description below. And thank you so much as always for joining me. If you enjoy, I'd really appreciate it if you consider leaving a like in the video or subscribing to the channel. Really helps out a ton. Anyway, let's get started. Breaking things down, as always, rental pays and team creator are linked down in the description below. And question of the day, I want to know what your overall rating of Regulation D is so far after playing it for a week. Personally, I have absolutely loved it, but I think that's just because it's a brand new format, and of course it's still the honeymoon phase, but I've had so much fun making content in the last couple of days, so hopefully you all have been enjoying watching it. But yeah, it's been really refreshing so far. The first Pokemon to talk about is Goodra. Now, this Goodra has Shelter, Body Press, Heavy Slam, and Life Dew. This is basically the standard Goodra set. Sometimes you'll see Protect over Life Dew and Leftovers over Rocky Helmet, but this is how most people run Goodra. You can also run Sap Sipper to give you a counter into Amoonguss, but I think Shell Armor is just such a good ability because it just means that your opponents can't play towards a critical hit win condition, which is what people normally do against setup-oriented strategies. This Goodra just has a mix between HP and defense, so you're calm nature but max HP, max defense, and so it just can tank attacks from both ends of the spectrum. Now, the main reason for Rocky Helmet is because you can really knock out opposing physical Pokemon through Rocky Helmet. For example, an Urshifu with Surging Strikes just can't crit the Goodra at all, and the Urshifu itself would basically take half its health from a single turn of Surging Strikes. So sometimes you'll see Leftovers to heal back a little bit more, but because Rillaboom exists on this team, you can actually have another way to start healing up Goodra with the Grassy Terrain. Life Dew is also really nice here because otherwise Goodra just can't really heal itself, especially without Leftovers plus Protect. So it allows you to find those pockets of opportunities to just get a single Life Dew up and heal back both yourself as well as your teammate. Fairy Terra is really nice here because I feel like in general Steel isn't super common and it is just a pretty good defensive typing across the board. Of course, able to resist a fighting type attack, which is really valuable, as well as dragon type attacks. So super, super strong. The idea behind this team is honestly to just protect Goodra as much as possible. To do so, you've got Grimmsnarl with dual screens here and Light Clay. That's pretty standard. The one thing to call out here is that instead of something like Spirit Break, you've got Fake Out. And one of the reasons for that is sometimes you'll be up against a Pokemon that might want to taunt Goodra, like a Tornadus or a Thundurus. So you can angle for something like a Fake Out plus a Shelter immediately, which is very, very handy. And once Grimmsnarl sets up both screens, it's often going to want a Parting Shot and just switch out immediately. Ghost Terra exists here, by the way, so you can get around potential fake outs. I think one of the ways that I've lost a lot with this team is my opponent just goes for fake out on a Grim and then knocks out Grim with something else. There was one really interesting team that I played against that had Tinkaton plus Iron Moth, and they went fake out plus Sludge Wave and just eliminated Grim immediately. So that's why Ghost Terra exists on this set. Assault Vest Landorus is the next Pokemon on this team, and this is a really bulky Landorus, basically near max HP investment and a lot of defense investment as well. And so the idea with this combo is that you can survive Water Terra Surging Strikes, for example, from Urshifu if you are Flying Terra, which is really handy. So you've got Terra Blast, U-Turn, Stomping, and Rock Slide. The idea is that the Landorus just stays on the field for a long period of time and slowly chips away at your opponent. Intimidate in itself is a really big deal just to prevent those super powerful physical attacks into going into Goodra. The main thing about Goodra is that its base defense and HP are like okay, but if your opponent gets a big like super effective fighting type attack off before you set up a Reflect or a Shelter, that can be a big problem. So having Intimidate certainly helps a lot. Also, Terra Blast and Flying Terra is just really powerful. I've had a lot of games where I lead Landorus and my opponents just kind of Grass Terra in front of Landorus, expecting a Stomping Tantrum or Earthquake, and then I can just Flying Terra and then retaliate back with a Terra Blast afterwards. I think with Goodra, Terra isn't super important on it. It can be very handy, especially if your opponent has a lot of super effective hits, for example, but sometimes you can just use Landorus in the early game for offense and then sweep the end game with Goodra because your opponent just doesn't have any responses to it anymore. To round things out, we've got Rillaboom. Rillaboom, of course, now no longer gets Grassy Glide or High Horsepower, but it's still a really good Pokemon. This is a utility set with Taunt as well as U-Turn, otherwise Fake Out and Woodhammer, and you've got Citrus Berry here. So the Rillaboom can really tank hits, and of course, one of the main reasons to bring it is to set up that Grassy Terrain for the Goodra, so Goodra can continuously heal up at the end of each turn. To round things out, you've got Urshifu. This is just a classic Mystic Water Urshifu. Not much more really needed to say about this Pokemon. And then Heatran. Heatran's probably the Pokemon I've brought the least while using with this team, but it gives you the Fire, Water, Grass core between the Heatran, Urshifu, and Rillaboom, and it's just a bulky Pokemon that can stay on the field for a long time while also dealing pretty good damage. Leftovers plus Rillaboom allows you to heal back pretty consistently, and you've got Grass Terra here to cover for random Ground-type Pokemon like Gastrodon, for example. So the main core with this team, I'd say, is Grimmsnarl Landorus with Rillaboom and Goodra in the back. You can just go for something like screens into U-turn and pivot into Goodra immediately. Grim Goodra is certainly an acceptable lead with Rillaboom and Landorus in the back. If you want to go with offense, for example, you could go Rillaboom Urshifu, pressure with Fake Out Surging Strikes immediately, Landorus Urshifu, for example. But I generally try to bring Grim in most games unless I think I'm just going to get no value out of it. And it's generally hard for Grim to just be completely useless, especially with Ghost Terra. I do think one of the things you have to ask yourself is, hey, does my opponent have a Fake Out user? Can they just eliminate Grimmsnarl quickly? And if the answer is yes, is it worth using my Ghost Terra to try to get around a Fake Out on turn 1 just to set up a screen? That's one question that you do have to consider. But overall, the main goal is to basically chip away at your opponent, bring out Goodra, and just put yourself in a position where your opponent can never KO Goodra. And this truly is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the entire format. And I've had so many games where it's just on the field for 10 turns and it just legitimately never faints. So yeah, that's it for a quick breakdown. Now let's highlight some weaknesses. So in terms of weaknesses, the first thing that I'll call out is that this is a much slower paced team than most Regulation D teams that I've used so far. If you want to see me play with some of the hyper offense teams, you can check out the videos down in the description below, but this is very different from those teams. The Pokemon are really bulky, you have a ton of capability of switching, but games will also go on for longer periods of time, and on average, you're not going to be able to pick up big one-hit knockouts very easily. What that means is you might be a little bit more vulnerable to secondary effects like critical hits. Obviously, Goodra can't get crit, but everything else can. And for example, one of the games I lost while practicing with this team, my opponent had Thundurus, they just Thunder Wave Goodra, and there were several crucial turns where Goodra was just unable to attack. And when games go on for longer periods of time, using something like Thunder Wave is more effective, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. It's not an inherent weakness of the team, but it's more about, does that complement your playstyle? Some players like to win games in 5 to 10 minutes. This team is certainly not going to be a team like that. So that's the first thing that I want to note. Obviously, for Grimmsnarl, if you're able to actually break the screens, that can be really valuable. So Brick Break as a tech move can be really strong. Now, with Ghost Terra, it's kind of hard to like guarantee denying any screens, but you can still pressure with Fake Out plus a strong attacker, and if they don't Ghost Terra and you eliminate Grimmsnarl, that gives you a huge lead. And if they Ghost Terra, you can take advantage of that, saying, okay, well then nothing else in the back can Terra. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Grimmsnarl in particular also sometimes can be dead weight after setting up screens, so you can think about the fact that, hey, okay, you've already set up your screens, you have nothing else to do, I know you're going to parting shot this turn, so let me aggressively target in what I think is going to come in for the slot of Grimmsnarl. For Goodra, I think dealing a huge amount of damage onto it before it really gets a shelter off is a really big deal. For ways to just damage it consistently, obviously super effective attacks can be really valuable both pre-Terra and post-Terra. I think one thing in particular is that Sacred Sword's a really nice move into Goodra, especially from something like Chien-Pao, because it just ignores the defense boosts from Shelter. And I've also seen some other creative solutions against Goodra, such as Dragon Tail. Haze obviously can get rid of those defense boosts as well, and Taunt is really effective in just denying it ways to set up earlier on in the battle. So those are a couple of things to call out for this duo in particular. And I think ultimately, if you look at the team, like, it's just a little bit slower pace, right? So you can potentially leverage your speed advantage to that. I think in some of the games I've lost, my opponents have just done a really good job of knocking out Pokemon super quickly. So say, okay, you only get one screen up with Grimmsnarl. I'm just going to use attacks from the other end of the spectrum and just keep basically getting these big knockouts and then putting us in a position where it's like 1v Goodra against the world, right? And Goodra is a Pokemon that honestly can pull off a 1v4, but not if it hasn't set up any boosts and everything else is fainted too quickly. So that's one thing something to consider as well. But yeah, that's it for a quick breakdown. Let's get into these battles. Okay, we've got Tornadus, Regidrago, Heatran, Urshifu, Dragonite, and Fluttermane. To me, this is basically a guaranteed screens with Grimmsnarl. I think Urshifu is definitely a little bit scary, as is Regidrago. I think Landorus is pretty strong here with the Goodra in the back. I think the common debate is, do we want Rillaboom as the final one? That does set up the Grassy Terrain for more recovery on Goodra. Admittedly, it's not great here. The main reason to bring Rillaboom, though, is for Urshifu. You can also Wood Hammer into Flutter and Fire Terra. I don't think Heatran on our end is that good. We don't really do that much damage with it. And I think Urshifu on our end's okay, but yeah, I'm just going to go with the Classic 4 with this team and go from there. The main thing about Goodra is that it can't get crit, which is obviously nice. However, one thing is that Urshifu can still crit everything else. So a strong Urshifu Surging Strikes, of course, can deal a lot of damage into the Landorus or into the Grimmsnarl, for example. I think if I'm in my opponent's shoes, I aggressively target down Grimm on turn 1 and just double up onto it. But Tornadus and Flutter is going to be the lead for my opponent. Okay, I don't mind that very much at all. Light Screen here is super safe. So I definitely don't mind clicking Light Screen. The question is whether or not I want to just get the Goodra out immediately. Like, I think I can just Light Screen and Stomping Tantrum on Flutter on turn 1. I think Rock Slide's also okay. Because if we knock out Tornadus, they can't taunt the Goodra. Okay, I'll go for Light Screen and Rock Slide here. They're going to go for Terra. That makes me think it's Terra goes Tornadus, but I'm not going to click Fake Out into it anyway. It could be Terra Fairy Flutter. Okay, they're just going on max offense here. That makes a lot of sense. I think their goal is to just eliminate the Grimmsnarl here, which I think is actually a really smart strategy. I think one thing I could have done was consider Terra flying and then just go for a Rock Slide. Or sorry, Terra Blast onto Flutter. Fairy, Terra, Dazzling. I don't even know if Bleak Windstorm KOs here. Oh, it's actually Icy Wind. Huh. But we're able to survive both of those, which is nice. Rock Slide misses. Okay. Ah, it's really frustrating, but that's okay. I can now Parting Shot into Fluttermane and then Stomping Tantrum. It means I will not have set up Reflect yet. Alternatively, I can just go for Reflect plus Terra, Stomping onto Flutter. Okay, I don't mind Reflect plus Stomping. I think just getting both screens up to make sure that their Urshifu can't close combat the Goodra to do as much is pretty valuable here. So they're just going to Dazzling again. Icy Wind does become single target now, but I would expect Landorus to still survive. Oh, they actually go for Bleak Windstorm. Even better. Okay. And we get Stomping Tantrum off. So that should KO Flutter. No Terra for them anymore to work with. They've got Urshifu, Regidrago potentially in the back, Heatran, Dragonite. So the debate is, do I actually want to go into Rillaboom or into Goodra? I think I prefer Rillaboom here. Let's see if they go into Urshifu. They actually go into Drago. Okay. So with Regidrago right now, I can Fake Out and then switch Landorus out into Goodra. And then Terra Goodra. And then start heavy slamming. The question is the rest of the Tornadus' moveset, because it's running Bleak Windstorm and Icy Wind, so you would assume Tailwind. What is your final move? Drago actually just goes for Protect. Okay, that's a good Protect. But I can just Fairy Terra the Goodra this next turn to be immune to any Dragon type attack from their end. Bleak Windstorm here is going to miss on the Goodra, but connects on Rillaboom. Okay. I think here I want to cycle out into Landorus. Terra. And go for a Shelter. Tornadus may taunt me here, so we'll see. I could see them going for taunt plus Regidrago just attacking. That initial miss on Tornadus from Rock Slide was pretty frustrating because I was thinking Rock Slide plus Heavy Slam may have been enough to get the knockout onto it. So we're going to go for Terra on Goodra here. The reality is that neither of these two Pokemon out on the field should really be able to do much damage to Goodra, which is good for us, especially with the Fairy Terra. So one of my main questions is what is their final Pokemon? But if it is Urshifu, for example, they just take so much damage from Rocky Helmet, and they just go for Tailwind. Perfect. So I'll be able to get an initial defense boost here, which is huge. And it's Dragon Energy. Perfect. Okay, that KO's Landorus. Another crit. But that's fine. The reality is that the Goodra should completely wall the Regidrago right now. So I'll bring Rillaboom out. I think the main thing with Rillaboom right now is that, like, earlier my opponent showed willingness to protect the Regidrago. So I think here I kind of want to just go for Fake Out onto Tornadus and go for Heavy Slam onto it. Yep, perfect. Here's Fake Out. There's the flinch. And here's Heavy Slam. Okay. We don't have Protect here on the Rillaboom, unfortunately, but let's think about this. We still have a lot of turns of Reflect, 3 turns of Light Screen. It's a question of what their final one is. I guess my biggest fear is probably that Heatran. Here you can just Bleak Windstorm plus go for Dragon Energy. I'm just going to Wood Hammer into Tornadus and Heavy Slam it. I could, like, set up more, I think, but I'm not sure that's necessary right now with the Goodra. Because we want to take advantage of the limited amount of turns of screens that we have left, basically. So they're going to Dragon Energy. Yep. In an ideal world, their last one is just Urshifu, and then they just Surging Strikes into Goodra, and then end up eating 50% from Rocky Helmet, and then Body Press KOs them. Because essentially, Goodra should always just be both of these two Pokemon on the field. I think if their last one is Dragonite, we should also be very well positioned. Heatran is where things get interesting, because they might have a super effective Flash Cannon into us. So let's see what it is. Urshifu. That's exactly what I want to see. Perfect. Last turn of Tailwind, last turn of Grassy Terrain. We've got the Shell Armor and the Rocky Helmet. So I am just going to click Body Press now into Urshifu. And there's Surging Strikes. Look how little damage that does. And this is why we have the Rocky Helmet. So this is what I mean. Goodra legitimately can, like, 1v4 teams. And in this matchup, honestly, my opponent just did not have an answer into Fairy Terra Goodra. So Urshifu loses half its health, essentially. Let's see if Regidrago has a way to really hit us. It's just Terra Blast, that's fine. That did 18 damage. Here's Body Press. Okay, it doesn't KO, but that's fine. At this point, the Urshifu just faints from attacking us. And this is where Rocky Helmet is such a nice item, right? It's such a good counter into Urshifu. So this game was all about Goodra, and we couldn't have had a better first game. So I'm just going to click Life Dew now. Urshifu is going to faint, and you can never crit us, which is nice. So talk about an interesting Urshifu answer. Now, a lot of sets will run, like, Leftovers and Protect on the Goodra, but since we have got Rocky Helmet plus the Life Dew, you know, that's another viable route. Terra Blast just does such little damage, and we can just consistently heal back with Life Dew. So I figured if I just got one defense boost up in this game, I'd be good. I don't think it was necessarily even that impactful. It was more just Goodra being able to tank all these hits in the end game and my opponent having nothing to really pressure us. So, yeah. Just Life Dew one last time and then start attacking them. Terra Blast again. Yep. And here's Life Dew. And Goodra honestly gets access to multiple good abilities, but I think not having to worry about crits on a set like this is just so nice. So now let's start body pressing. They're just going to keep Terra Blasting. Yep, 180 down to 53. I mean, they're doing 27 damage, so this is a done deal at this point. I mean, I'm curious how much Heavy Slam actually does here, so let's find out. And my opponent's just playing towards hoping that we are not Shell Armor and trying to go for a crit, but I know we're Shell Armor, so it's guaranteed. Okay, that Heavy Slam did literally nothing, so it's good to know. Just gives me a good sense of how much to expect with Heavy Slam onto Drago in the future, and there's no way we're ever losing this end game knowing that they can't get a crit onto us. So, my friends, that is the power of Hisuian Goodra. Stayed on the field for so long, and it took a little bit of time to get it going, but, you know, the early game we were able to get rid of my opponent's Terra, which was really big, and also set up both screens with the Grimmsnarl, which was also great. I guess the Reflect ended up not really being that meaningful since Urshifu was clicking Surging Strikes anyway, but you could see how valuable Rocky Helmet as an item is here, and that's why Fairy Terra is so nice on Goodra as well, because it just means close combat doesn't do super effective damage, and it turns into a not very effective attack. So I think this Pokemon can be so powerful, especially into some of these hyper offense teams that just can't break through it. The one way my opponent could have potentially stopped it is like a taunt from Tornadus, but with no taunt coming out, Goodra was just so well positioned to deal damage while also healing up. Alright, let's keep the Goodra train going. We are up against Rain here. Pelipper, Basculegion, Chiampao. Chiampao's pretty scary for Goodra, I would say. Golden is also scary here. Thunderstarian and Dragonite. I don't love this. I definitely don't love this. I think the normal 4 are fine here of Grim, Lando, Rillaboom, plus Goodra. I think you could maybe make an argument for Grim Rillaboom lead instead. But I honestly think Landorus is really good into my opponent's entire team, and I'd rather put on pressure with it immediately. Okay, let's go with this. So one thing to worry about is Sacred Sword from Chiampao, because it can ignore the defense boost on Goodra's end. If I Fairy Terra with Goodra, that's going to be pretty good, but then I have to worry about super effective Make It Rain from Golden Go. So I think Golden Go might cause some issues for me here. I actually wonder if Heatran was the right Pokemon to bring in this matchup. My problem is if they bring out Pelipper, which feels so likely, then Heatran's Fire-type attacks just don't really do that much, right? And I think like their team has so much offense. Honestly, it looks really powerful. I think this is probably not the best matchup for us because Pelipper alone is actually quite good. One thing to also think about is with Goodra, I can't body press either of the ghost types. So if I were my opponent, I'd go Pelly, Chiampao, Golden Go, and Basculegion for sure. So we'll see how much value we can get out of Goodra in this one. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. That being said, Goodra is tanky enough where it can be valuable into the physical attackers where like they just keep using hits and then slowly KO themselves from Rocky Helmet. Kind of like what Urshifu did previously. Yep, Pelly Chiampao. I would expect Basculegion, Golden Go in the back, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Huh, I think turn 1 here I can go Reflect and then switch Landorus out immediately into the Goodra. The hope is that they Ice Spinner and then eat Rocky Helmet damage so it breaks Focus Sash. I think I'm okay with that. Because I think conserving Landorus' Intimidate for the Basculegion is going to be really important. I'm a little bit worried about just beating Basculegion in general. Rillaboom is going to be helpful, but Pelipper can Hurricane it, which isn't great. Yeah, I don't think Heatran was going to do much in this matchup for me. I guess Water Urshifu was worth considering because I can take advantage of the rain, but meh. I'll see what their response to turn 1 is here. Ideally, they just Ice Spinner. Ideally, they Tailwind. I think you could just Hydro Pump. You could double up on a Grimmsnarl here turn 1, in my opinion. I think that's actually a really strong play. Alright, they just Protect. That's fine. Huh? Protect Wide Guard. Okay. You don't see that frequently, but the idea is to see what Landorus locks into. Huh. I'll take it. I will definitely take it. Do I just Terra Goodra here immediately? can set up light screen now. If I Terra, I become weak to Golden Go. I could see a world in which Chien-Pao just switches into Golden Go here. And I think conserving Terra for Landers for Terra Blast might be valuable. I'm going to light screen and just heavy slam here. Oh, they went Helping Hand though. If I had Terra, I think I'd be in such good shape. I definitely didn't expect Helping Hand, but I guess what else am I expecting from Pelipper, right? Okay, that honestly doesn't do that much. We'll get the knockout in return. Basically, my fear is I don't want to commit the Terra here and then have Golden Go come out and just be able to KO me. That was a crit, but I don't think that matters. I've seen Heavy Slam KO so frequently. So once again, the Rocky Helmet, you can see how impactful of an item it is, right? In that previous game, we used it to solo Urshifu base lane. In this game, it breaks the Focus Sash on Chien-Pao. So I think Leftovers and Rocky Helmet are both incredible items on Goodra. With this team, because you have Rillaboom, you can get some sustain via the Grassy Terrain, and of course you have Life Dew as well. So just Basque Legion coming out immediately, okay. With that, then I can Parting Shot. I wonder who... Like, this could Water Terra, obviously. I've already set up both screens, which is excellent. Parting Shot into you, and then switching out into Rillaboom seems pretty good here. Yeah, I think I like that. I think the fact that we've gotten both screens up and the fact we eliminated Chien-Pao this early is really big for us. I'm happy about that, at least. And we've gotten Reflect up, and I have Intimidate for Basque Legion as well. Okay, they're just Helping Hand. That's not really too much of a surprise. So get Parting Shot off. I think the question here is, should I go into Landorus or should I go out into Goodra? I think Goodra is probably the right answer here. Because I can start Life Dewing with it now. There's Wave Crash. Yeah, perfect. And they eat up Rocky Helmet damage. Excellent. They're taking more damage from Goodra. Look at that! That was Wave Crash plus Rocky Helmet plus Life Orb. Like, Basque Legion took, like... Oh my goodness. Like, 33%. Nice. This turn is interesting. Pelipper, 2 turns of Rain. Still have a lot of turns of screens here. They could Helping Hand like Last Respects Goodra. I could switch out into Landers for an Intimidate. I could go back into Grim as well. Like, I'm thinking Grim here. Woodhammer into Pelipper. I was thinking Basque Legion might want to switch, but if we, like, if Basque Legion protects and they Hurricane, I think that's one other possibility. But if, like, we just knock out Pelipper, then they're in such a tough spot. But it's actually just Last Respect into Rillaboom. Okay, that's fine. We're faster than Peli, which is great. We get the Woodhammer off. So much damage. They are going to Hurricane. Does that KO with Light Screen up? Ooh, we survive. Okay. Don't love the confusion there, though. That confusion's actually really tough. I think without the confusion, I could just easily pivot Grim out into Landorus. I mean, I could still go for this, right? Like, last turn of Rain. We still have a lot of turns of screens left. Like, just Parting Shot and Woodhammer. It's just the confusion makes this a little bit trickier for me. I'm conserving Landers because I'm still worried about the Golden Go being my opponent's last one. Yeah, so Basque Legion switches out, which I think is the right play. Into Dragonite, which is fine. I mean, yeah, if I don't hit myself in confusion here, I just KO Pelipper, and that's such a big deal right now. I think this is a huge turn. When you're using a team like this, games go on for longer, so you are more vulnerable to secondary effects, and that's one of the inherent weaknesses that you have to worry about. Let's bring out Goodra. Okay, does Rillaboom attack? Nice. Okay, that's huge. Get a knockout. Dragonite's at -1. Still no Terra from either end, which is interesting as well. One thing that was a really big deal here is how we staggered around the rain, because, like, rain is just about to expire, so that's really good for us. If I had Woodhammered Basculegion earlier, by the way, I probably... Oh, never mind. They have 3 turns left. Okay, so that makes sense. Damp Rock. This is at -1. Can Last Respects. Or just Wave Crash. I think I just sacrifice Rillaboom right now, honestly. But the question is, what do I do with the Goodra slot? I could switch out into Grim, for example. And then Woodhammer. I'm hoping they Last Respects that slot, but it might be Last Respects into Rillaboom, which would be fine, because then I just get Goodra out again and I can Parting Shot. Yeah, they target Rillaboom, but that's okay. I'm worried about Dragon Dance Dragonite right now. Life Orb. Alright, just Aerial Ace, that's fine. Yep. This is going to be a really close finish. I think we go out into Landorus first here. Bait an attack into that slot. Because there's 2 turns of rain left. So now that I've got it into Landorus, I can just switch Landorus out into Goodra. 2 turns of Reflect. Because basically, I'm playing towards the Landorus endgame right now, right? So what I can do is Fake Out into Dragonite. That breaks Multiscale. And then pivot Landorus out into Goodra. I would think Goodra survives Last Respects with the Intimidate Reflect. But it is stronger now that another Pokemon's knocked out. Oh, that's so huge for us. I think that actually may just win me the game. Okay, nice. Okay, flinch. More recovery. No more Grassy Terrain. So it's the last turn of rain now. I think I want to be careful here. I don't actually want to Parting Shot into you. I mean, I guess I could Parting Shot and then go into Landorus. The problem is if they just launch a Water-type attack onto Grimmsnarl and Landorus faints, I think that's a little bit careless. So I'm actually going to intentionally not Parting Shot this turn, I think. Because I want to stall out the rain right now. It's just Parting Shot into this is so obvious. He would get it down to -3. Yeah, I know this seems weird, but I'm going to intentionally not go for it. Because I want the free switching into Landorus right now, and I don't want the risk of them wave crashing that slot, as you see. Perfect. And the Basculegion is just slowly KOing itself at this point, right? Yep, that's exactly why I didn't want to make the switch. Excellent. Now I get life too with Goodra. It's taking a little bit of time to get there, but we're close. We are close. Rain stops. Finally. And Reflect wears off. So this timed perfectly, right? Because now I just set up Reflect again. Dragonite's basically not relevant in terms of damage output at this point. So we set up Reflect again. And at this point, I think Reflect plus... I wonder how much Heavy Slam does to Basculegion. I wouldn't expect much, honestly. think Reflect and Shelter here is fine. You have to be really patient when using this team. One wrong misstep and it can completely cost you the game. But what's really interesting in this game is I'm letting my opponent's Basculegion essentially KO itself through Recoil and Life Orb. There's Aerial Ace, no problem. Patience is key here. That's exactly why I didn't Parting Shot. If I went Parting Shot there, yeah, Basculegion's at -3, but it's still a Life Orb boosted Wave Crash into Landorus, which is pretty scary. So we get our defense boost. Light Screen wears off, but no more special attackers, and Landorus gets to come out. Perfect. And this is why Rocky Helmet's such a nice item. Against these physical attackers in the endgame, it's so tough for my opponent. So you're at -2 now. I think we can just Terra you. Dragonite shouldn't really be relevant here. So Terra Blast. That way we don't miss. And then just Life Dew. Because maybe Basculegion protects here. I think with Reflect and Basculegion being at -2 and Rain actually being stalled out. Unless they just manage... Even if you crit Wave Crash like onto Landorus, I don't see how they ever beat Goodra at this point. I think Goodra just 1v2s. Even if I didn't have Landorus or Terra at this point, I think Goodra would just win, quite frankly. After getting the defense boost and Reflect. So, yep, Basculegion protects, but that's why I clicked Life Dew here. They never Terra'd, right? They had Champao lead, Pelipper, neither of those Terra'd, so that's interesting. Yeah, they're just going for a crit with Aerial Ace there, but Life Dew just heals us up. Perfect. Okay, there's no Terra you can really do to get around Terra Blast from here, so we'll just Terra Blast again, and then just Heavy Slam as well. Yeah, they end up forfeiting. So, once again, these are the endgame scenarios that Goodra can create. In this battle, Goodra was so huge because it was able to just eliminate Champao immediately with that Heavy Slam after Focus Sash was broken, thanks to the Rocky Helmet. Basculegion took... I basically didn't actually do damage to Basculegion, right? All the damage that it had taken throughout this battle was from Life Orb, Rocky Helmet, as well as recoil from a Wave Crash. So it's an interesting solution to a somewhat tricky Pokemon. But yeah, I think the matchup was weird in the sense that I didn't feel great about any other Pokemon, but it's not like Rillaboom necessarily feels amazing either. If I had just would hammer the Basculegion slot earlier in this battle, I think I would have won the game immediately, but that turn I was trying to cover for a Basculegion Protect, and I was thinking they might consider a switch out as well. So yeah, I could have accelerated the pace of this battle, because I think if we just KO Basculegion, it's Pelipper plus Dragonite in the endgame for my opponent. Landorus in itself just wins at that point, but Goodra was so essential, and basically checkmated my opponent once we eliminated the Champao, I feel like, because they didn't really have any reasonable answers to Goodra, and just making sure that we were able to set up Reflect multiple times, get the right parting shots into Basculegion, put us into a really good spot. That's a Cacturn. Okay. Okay. Okay, I have no idea what that's gonna do. Yo, what a team. They also have a Annihilate, which I would guess is Final Gambit. It's actually gonna be one of the biggest counters to Goodra possible, because no matter how much setup we get going, a single Final Gambit just nukes us. This is gonna be interesting. If you want to go Trick Room, you go Annihilate plus Mimikyu or Annihilate plus Farigiraf. I wonder if part of the play is just Water Terra, Aqua Jet, and then Rillaboom with Taunt. I'm going off the script here because I don't think just setting up screens and setting up Goodra works nearly as effectively here. I feel like I should be bringing Heatran for Torkoal, right? Do I even bring Goodra in this one, honestly? I'm bringing it, but I can't help but think Landorus may have actually been the better bring. Also, looking at the sprites is so funny. Like, Landorus is this tiny. I didn't notice that until this game. Anyway, Cacturn. I really know nothing about this Pokemon. I cannot remember the last time I fought against it. But it's Annihilate Tinglu. Okay. So basically what I was thinking here is I can just like Water Terra into the It might not even actually be Scarfape. That's just my guess. Water Terra Aqua Jet. Fake out turn 1. Do I need to fake out? Like, maybe Water Terra Aqua Jet into Woodhammer is good because I could see it you turning out instead. It might not even be Scarf Annihilate, but I think I am committed to thinking it is. I mean, if it's not the end of the world, right? Because, like, if you're bulk up, I just Surging Strikes crit you consistently. So let's see. They didn't protect Ting Lu. That's interesting. Final Gambit? Yes. That's exactly what I was going for. Perfect. And now I get a Woodhammer into Ting Lu. I wonder how much this does. I was going to guess like 80%-ish. 95 more like. Oh my goodness. They just went for it. Oh. If they missed, I feel like I honestly would just win the game from that position. Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, well I can bring out Goodra. Fisher is another way to deal with Goodra. Mimikyu, okay? I mean, I could just Aqua Jet and Heavy Slam you. The problem is, I think Mimikyu has to Terra this turn, so does my opponent see the Terra? Yeah, I'm gonna go Aqua Jet Heavy Slam. They didn't Terra. Do we KO Mimikyu with a Heavy Slam is the other question now. Presumably their last Pokemon is Torkoal, right? Okay. We do get the knockout. That was a crit. That may have mattered, honestly. I do not know that damage calc. I thought they were just going to click Fisher again there, and I was like, there's no way, right? Well, you faint from Rocky Helmets. It's a 3v1 now. What a battle it's been. Regardless of how crazy things have been, though, I'm very happy about calling the Scarf Annihilate and then finding a unique solution to it with the Water Terra Aqua Jet. Torkoal? Yeah. Okay. With Torkoal, Heatran's my last one. That's obviously a perfect final Pokemon to have. Honestly, I think we can just Surging Strikes here. Switch out into Heatran. Because if you go for a spread fire type attack, then Heatran just gets a Flash Fire boost. If you predict the Heatran coming in and like Earth Power it, that's also fine. Because then Urshifu just gets 2 Surging Strikes off. So Torkoal's going to Terra here. I do want to do the damage calc against Mimikyu after this because I have no idea what that is. So they Fire Terra Torkoal, no surprise there. Surging Strikes in Sun. I would guess it does 50-ish. Looks like it'll just be over it. Yeah, more like 65, 70. Man, that is so strong. Okay. Yeah, they just Eruption. I wonder if this even KOs the Urshifu. Let's see. Oh my goodness. So the thing is, if the Fisher didn't hit, like, against the Mimikyu, I could have just gone for either Aqua Jet, or sorry, Surging Strikes plus Woodhammer, right? Or Taunt. So, yeah. I felt like I was in a really good spot with that turn 1, and then obviously the Fisher hit, which definitely came out of nowhere, but let's do that damage calc of Goodra into Mimikyu, because I honestly have no idea what it is. I'm sad we didn't get to see Cacturne come out, but sometimes with Goodra, you don't necessarily need to go for the screen setup, right? It can just be an effective Pokemon to bring into a battle and just start clicking Heavy Slam and Body Press, so don't discount the possibility of that in particular. But let's pull up the calc. So pulling up the damage calc, Heavy Slam against max HP 4 defense Mimikyu is actually a guaranteed one-hit knockout. Obviously, we don't know how much defense the Mimikyu had, so for example, if it's just like max defense, max HP here, then it is 77.7 to 92.5%. So kind of comes down to the Mimikyu's EV spread, but there's a good chance that the crit actually didn't matter, which makes me feel a little bit better. And it's a testament to how good Heavy Slam can be even without any attack investment, which is awesome to see. So yeah, that was a really crazy game, but we kind of had to go off the script there, mainly focusing on making sure Annihilate couldn't just get something KO'd immediately. And yeah, like I said, if Fisher didn't hit on turn 1, then Rillaboom would have been in a position to taunt or Woodhammer into the Mimikyu slot, which then would have, I think, also just denied them Trick Room. Like, I could have gone Surging Strikes and Woodhammer, double up onto Mimikyu. If Mimikyu goes for Shadow Sneak, then it means like you can't go for Trick Room, and then I just managed to break Mimikyu's disguise. And as long as Trick Room doesn't get set up in that game, I should be super well positioned, especially with Heatran as my last one to deal with their Torkoal. So yeah. Okay, for this one, we've got Armarouge, Indeedee, Mouse, Urshifu, Torn, and Ursaluna. Haven't seen Mousehold in a while, so that's interesting. It's also intriguing to see, like, such a fast mode with Torn, Urshifu, and then Ursaluna. I think if you were to just, like, separate the modes from my opponent's team, you could just go Indeedee, Armarouge, Ursaluna, plus Mouse as a core. I'm just curious about the Mouse set. Is it Population Bomb? You would think it's a bulky Follow Me user, right? I think the classic Grim, Lando, Goodra, Rillaboom works here. I'm just debating about Heatran because of immunity to fire type attacks. You just can't do much to Armarouge in return, so yeah, I think Grim, Lando, Rillaboom, Goodra is okay here. Urshifu is also interesting to me with Surging Strikes, but I'm a little bit worried about like a Rogue Rocky Helmet from their end. Mouse is honestly what I'm mainly worried about. Like, if this were Indeedee and Belly Drum Ursaluna, and you lead Indeedee, Belly Drum Ursaluna, I might be in trouble immediately. Because, like, even if I set up Reflect and I get this initial Intimidate off, Belly Drum is very, very tough for us. I wonder if I should have gone Grim Goodra then and just Reflect into Shelter on turn 1. Yeah, I think because they have Mousehold, I'm thinking it's Swords Dance or Belly Drum on Ursaluna. But they just go Torn Urshifu. Okay, that is not bad for us. This is a very free Reflect and just switch into Goodra turn 1, I think. One other play is Fake Out plus Max Airstream. Not Max Airstream. Terra Blast Urshifu. I think I'm generally fine with Reflect and Swap Out here, though. It's interesting they're committing to the fast mode rather than the Trick Room mode, but I'm honestly happy to see that. I think we have to respect late game Indeedee Armarouge from my opponent's end. Urshifu Text, that's fine. They just Tailwind, that's no problem. I think next turn, Taunt and Surging Strike certainly makes some sense. Close Combat shouldn't do that much to us at this point. I should probably just set up Light Screen here, right? I think I just go for the Terra here. The question is it valuable to Terra either of these? I do think Landor's Terraing for Terra Blast is pretty good. But I think just getting this immediately going is fine too. So Light Screen, Terra U, and just start body pressing. I'm not going to click Shelter this turn out of respect for Taunt from Tornadus. I just wonder if Rillaboom was the right fort to bring, but they're going to Terra here. Okay. Water Terra? I'm very happy to see that, honestly. Yeah. You are not going to do that much damage into us. They might be targeting Grimmsnarl instead, though. But yeah, this was just a preemptive Terra because I just don't want to be eating up close combats. I think if I had leftovers, I would be more willing to not Terra here. But with the lack of leftovers, and with my only recovery being Life Dew and inability to protect as well, I want to respect things a little more here. Yep, so there's the taunt. We're not going to get caught by that. We got light screen up, which is more for later on in this battle than this turn. Surging strikes. Let's see. Okay, it does go into Grim, so nice target there. I think we'll survive here with the Sliver. Yeah, really well done. I think if they had targeted the Goodra, they'd be in really bad shape because of the Rocky Helmet that I have. I think we Parting Shot Tornadus now. I think I should have actually been heavy slamming Tornadus from the start, because if we eliminate Tornadus, then they can't taunt me later on in this battle. So that last turn, I think I could have played better. But I have both screens set up. The main problem is that Goodra doesn't have any defense boost. It's not like Body Press is doing very much right now. Torn actually switches. Okay. That's a great switch. Okay, nicely done. The thing is, they don't really have too much to pressure Goodra with damage right now, and I have a Rillaboom just waiting to come in right now as well. And if they end up clicking Surging Strikes onto the Goodra, they're just going to eat up so much damage. So I still feel okay about this game state. Surging Strikes again. 12. Oh, but they're protective pads. So they're not going to take recoil either. What an interesting game. Okay. Very cool. I'm down to go out into Rillaboom now and go for Life Dew this turn. I can't Life Dew, sorry. I will Life Dew soon. Yeah, it's the last turn of taunt, so I think going out into Rillaboom here is fine. You can just Heavy Slam again. What an interesting battle so far. That's a really big deal because, as you had seen, Goodra was so effective in beating Urshifu in the previous games we've had. So that changes things pretty drastically. Indeed, hard switches out again, okay? Tornadus coming back out. That makes sense. I mean, I'm getting a lot of free Heavy Slams off, so I can't complain, honestly. And then this next turn, I can actually fake out into a Torn slot and Heavy Slam it as well. Urshifu's not really doing much damage to either of my Mons right now. So here's another Surging Strikes. Yep, into the Rilla slot. But with Citrus and Grassy Terrain recovery, it's not too bad. I think this doesn't even activate Citrus. It's kind of close. Yeah, just under. I think the main question I have this next turn is, do we think that the... Oh my gosh, Heavy Slam does so much to Torn there. That's huge. Because I think I want to switch out Rillaboom back out into Grim. But the other consideration is we actually get Grim to the point. Basically, like, I could fake out Tornadus right now. But if I fake out and it has Covert Cloak and it gets a Taunt off or a Bleak Wind Storm, that's not great. So how many turns of screens do I have left? Still a good number. So I prefer to just sacrifice Grim here and then just KO Torn with the Heavy Slam. Oh, Urshifu switches, okay. Into Mousehold. I have no, like, because they brought Mousehold and Indeedee and Tornadus. Like, Urshifu's the only real damage dealer out of that three. Yep, there's Bleak Wind Storm. I don't know. Like, it would have been nice if I knew Tornadus wasn't Covert Cloak so I could just fake out Heavy Slam it, but I think the risk of Covert Cloak is too real there. What an interesting battle so far, though. Like, we're slowly just chipping away with the Goodra, right? Even though we haven't gotten any boost, it's still dealing a lot of damage. Most importantly, this time around, they didn't taunt us. So, I'm going to bring Landorus out here first. Yeah, and they have Indeedee. This is fascinating, because it's like, what is the Mousehold set? Like, I feel like if you're not Population Bomb, you just deal no damage. They set up Psychic Terrain, but I can just pivot back out into Rillaboom to change the terrain. Do I even bother sheltering? It does allow me to do more damage with Body Press. So I think I want to U-turn and shelter right now. Ah, it is Pop Bomb. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't even think you KO here unless you get a crit along the way. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I mean, Mouse is just pretty underwhelming when we have Intimidate and Reflect up. U-turn almost just one-shots the NDD there. Okay. Get Rillaboom out. With Rillaboom out, I can just fake out into Mouse. Sorry, fake out into NDD. What do you do if you're my opponent? I think one play is switch NDD out. You could just Helping Hand Pop Bomb again, but I also have Citrus on Rillaboom, so I'm not sure that's KOing either. I think I'd rather Wood Hammer Body Press right now. It's just so much damage, and I still have 2 turns of Reflect and the Citrus. Yeah, like I have Reflect plus Citrus right now, so Wood Hammer into NDD, which covers for a Urshifu switch in, and then just Body Press into Mouse. I mean, I feel pretty good about this game state. Like, I think, yeah, there's a switch. That's exactly why I Wood Hammered. No need to fake out in that position, because what is NDD going to do to threaten me anyway, right? Wood Hammer just puts on so much offensive pressure. They go for Encore, which is pretty cute, actually. So that's a nice play, but we just KO Urshifu here. And I think that should steal us the game. Because, like, Mouse, at this point, will just KO itself by population bombing. So how in the world do you actually ever KO the Goodra in itself? Yep. So now they probably just population bomb into Rillaboom. I should have considered Encore, though, and just click Body Press instead, I suppose. But I think this next turn I can just switch Goodra out into Landorus. Because realistically, Goodra just wins 1v1 always against the Mouse. I just Body Press. So I can just go U-turn out into NDD and then pivot out into Landorus. And Goodra secures us this victory. I think in this game, we showed how, like, you sometimes want to play around Taunt, right? So I didn't let my opponent really get too much value out of Taunt in the early game, and we were just consistently chipping away at things with Heavy Slam, right? Heavy Slam was doing 70% to Tornadus, a solid kind of 30-40 to NDD as well, and they didn't really have too much to retaliate back onto Goodra with, right? So the Life D recovery is also just valuable if we get to a point where I take a lot of hits, but in this game, we were able to kind of just not take too much damage because their only 2 damage dealers were Mousehold and Urshifu, right? So it's like 2 physical attackers. Reflect was really good, and with us bringing Rillaboom, Water Urshifu just struggled a little bit more. So they just go for Follow Me. That's fine. Wood Hammer will KO, or sorry, U-turn will KO here. That's cute. Tidy Up. I had actually run this exact Mousehold set for the Global Challenge, one of the global online tournaments. So that's cool. But yeah, I'm not going to really get trapped by that. And now, like, Mousehold is never going to be Hisuian Goodra with Rocky Helmet, right? As soon as you click Population Bomb into it, you just KO yourself. So Rocky Helmet Goodra's been amazing here. I think coming into this team, I thought Leftovers was the better item, but I was curious how good Rocky Helmet was, and now I'm convinced Rocky Helmet can be so good on the right team. I don't think one is just objectively better than the other, but yeah. Anyway, you're down to -1 attack still. Reflect just wore off. But if you pop bomb into this, you just faint. So, yeah. I'll just Body Press here and Stomping Tantrum. I guess technically the more optimal play is to switch out Landorus so I get another Intimidate off. So let's do that. But at this point, I think even if I didn't have Rillaboom or Landorus, the game is over because you can never KO the Goodra. I was really hoping they would Population Bomb into Goodra and we just see Mouse KO itself. But alas, that's not going to happen. But I think we survive all these pop bombs. Yeah. I think the team we're using is honestly one of the worst teams for Mousehold to go up against because we have a Goodra with Rocky Helmet and we have Intimidate and we have Reflect. With Population Bomb Mousehold, you normally want to just get big one-hit KOs with it, but hasn't been able to get a single knockout so far with it, right? So, yeah. We can just Body Press now and Fake Out. Maybe they Protect, but then Body Press Wood Hammer wins the game next turn. So, Protect, Population Bomb, Tidy Up. Definitely an interesting set. I just want them to Population Bomb the Goodra so badly, so we see the Rocky Helmet finish things off. But I think you can see in pretty much all the games today, it's like so hard for our opponents to deal with Goodra, right? It just stays on the field for so long. So Body Press and just Wood Hammer. Yes! Oh, poor mouse. That's one of the most satisfying Rocky Helmets. It would have been so funny if I were able to like switch in the Goodra on the Population Bomb and just have Mousehold KO itself, because that would be a full knockout. It's funny when people were using Rocky Helmet and Mungus in the beginning of Scarlet and Violet VGC to deal with Population Bomb on Mousehold in particular. So yeah, I thought their team was interesting because like the Indeedee, Armarouge, and Ursaluna core is like a really slow mode, and then you have like a faster mode. But with your faster mode, I would have thought it would make more sense to maybe have brought out Armarouge over the Mousehold here. But I can definitely understand why they brought out Mousehold, because it didn't look like we had that many resistances or immunities to Population Bomb. It's just with Reflect and Intimidate, we can take attacks so easily. So, yeah. Anyway, my friends, that is the power of Hisuian Goodra. This Pokemon just barely fainted throughout all of the games that we played with it today, and it just stayed on the field for so long. So it is a Pokemon you're going to need an answer to, and it can be very frustrating to fight against, and I think this team supports it so well because you've got the Intimidate, you've got so much bulk to work with, you've got the Grassy Terrain recovery, and you, of course, have screens from Grimmsnarl. So thanks so much, as always, for watching. Leave a like if you enjoy, and I'll see you all soon. All right, peace.